Do you have that one word that makes you tickle from the inside, right? Do you have one? For me, it's Emirates. You're probably wondering, you mean the actual literal geographical Emirates? No. Yes, but more so specifically, the airline itself. And there's actually a whole reason as to why I'm so in love with the airline and as a result being so interested in aviation and so on and so forth. So let's go a little bit back, looking at what actually is Emirates. Emirates Airline, for those who don't know, is probably today's the world's biggest international airline. It was made in 1984, I believe, and its first flight was actually from Dubai to Karachi. And at that time, it was, a pivotal moment for the Middle East because Gulf Air, at the time was a little bit struggling at the time. And so Emirates was there. And as a result, since then, the aviation industry within Dubai has been so strong, which I believe in 2013, they also released their first A380 concourse, which when I went there, honestly, it was phenomenal. It was amazing. But we'll get onto that. So the whole point of me mentioning, Emirates and airline, okay, forget about that. Why am I even interested in Emirates in the first place? And I think that's more so because my family, when they would be, when we would be traveling to Pakistan, we would take a transit, and that transit would be from Dubai, then from Dubai to Pakistan. But in that moment, that transit is probably my favorite bit of the entire trip itself. More so because, you're traveling with your family, you get to see loads of different people, you get to see a different culture, and the way Emirates treats you is, well, of course, it's unforgettable. Like, I have not forgotten a single trip that I've had with Emirates. Obviously, there will be points when I'm little, like, timelines merged and stuff, but probably 2013, 14 onwards, I remember each and every consecutive trip that I've had. And for me, it's probably been one of the best moments in my life where each year or every 2 years or every 3 years or however often I going with Emirates is probably my highlight of that certain year. So let's go back to my earliest memories of when I first flew with Emirates and what do I actually remember. I remember, one of my mum's friends, they were also an air hostess at the time, and they were also on the same flight as us. And I remember she gave me the captain's cap and took a picture of me with her Polaroid as well, and I've still got that Polaroid as well. And that moment, you could just see my whole smile was from cheek to cheek. It was a massive grin on my face. And I think moments like that, I really vividly remember. I also remember moments at which, when you're little, you typically, I don't know what the age is, the age limit, but when you're little, I believe 12 or under, you get access to children meals. Now, if you were to put in comparison an adult's meal and a child's meal, big difference. And I can tell you this right now, that I'm still obsessed with children's meals, like on Emirates Airline, more so because they give you Skittles, they give you, M&M's was a prominent thing at the time. They would give you this massive, bag that says like Fly Emirates on it or something. And in that would be a little plush toy and so on and so forth. So the whole experience for that child is being so memorable. They've been literally taken care of, yeah? And I think it's as a result of that, those little moments I've had, I've, passed down into my late years of life. And even today, I love Emirates, even as an adult. And going back a little bit further, so there was a food items that I absolutely love. And then go on a little bit further and we look at, the video games and then the movies and things that every child would love. Food, movies, chilling out, 33,000 feet in the sky. You're not going anywhere. Well, you are literally going somewhere, but you're not physically moving and you're just sat and you're relaxing. And I think there's nothing better than that. And not only that, you're with your family. And even for those who aren't with their family, there are points at which Emirates will literally make you feel pampered. That's one thing for sure. The cabin crew, they really do go far out in order to actually make this a memorable experience for you. Hence why when I was around 21, I did consider joining, the cabin crew for Emirates, and probably kind of still want to be honest. But I'm currently finishing off my medicine degree, so focuses on that. So going back to, we've talked about the food, we've talked about the games, and the specific game I remember is, one of them is chess. Another one I believe was snakes, of course, classic. And there was, those things where you shoot balls and you have to hit other massive 100 other balls and they disappear. And it's kind of like Pong almost. And there were different things like that. But other moments in terms of interacting with people, I remember, it was complete pitch dark. We're in the night. Everyone was asleep but me and these two other men. And, they were really nice. They were just playing video games. And me being a child at the time, had no, barriers in terms of, speaking to people. I kind of just went up to them and just watched them play the game, like, as that child does. And the man obviously looks back and just, was like, just looking at me, and he invites me to play the game with him. I can't remember what that game was, but whatever it was just a memorable moment for me, that even the passengers on that plane were really nice. And that's so important, that not only the cabin crew, but also the passengers. You've got to keep in mind that individuals who are going from either Manchester or Heathrow to Dubai, they're going there to either A, have fun, B, go back home, C, start a new life. 90% of the times it's a holiday, it's something to do with being happy, and everyone going there is in a good mood. Reverse it, anyone who's going from Dubai back to the UK, 80%, 70%, I'd say, they're coming back from their holiday, or their mood's a little bit lower in comparison to when you are going. That's one thing I've noticed for sure, which is another reason as to why I love Emirates, especially going from the UK to Dubai. Probably not so much Dubai back to the UK, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And other different things that I remember being on the plane, just the toilet as well. It's such a minute thing, but even having little perfume bottles, soap, really nice smelling soap, the mirror, the lighting. And one thing I love, like I will always remember, is when pressing the flush button, and it would like pause for a moment, and there'll be almost like a suspense, and then suddenly it would just like suck your poop or your wee. I don't know where it goes. I never really wanted to know where it goes, but it just sucks it as if, it's a monster. And that for me is also memorable, because I remember the first time I tried that, I was obviously it's a bit scary at the time, because, your flush at home makes also a sound, but it goes, but this one's like, so it really does, it's quite impactful, and obviously quite suspenseful as well. So the toilet is definitely one. Also, they've got like these little cups as well. For me, I used it as a bidet, lota, if you want to call it. So for me, I guess they could improve on that element of it, but still, my toilet experience on Emirates has been good. Like, if you're comfortably, pooping away, weeing away, I think that's probably one of the main points, that if you're comfortable doing that, then that means that airline is pretty good. If you're not comfortable doing that, then that means the airline isn't so good. And another example, different transport, but if you go on the Northern train in the UK, there are toilets on that train, but the doors are so dodgy that it opens up as if it's some like, those TV shows when that mystery guest arrives in a lift or from like an opening door and they just come out. Those toilets are like that, and at any random times, those doors can just magically open. So if you're sat on the toilet, you're just sat there and everyone's just watching you. So things like that. If the toilet isn't comfortable for you to do your stuff on, then probably not a good transport or airline. But the point to make is, toilet was really good. Other things that I definitely remember in my earlier days with Emirates is now it's all coming back to me. I remember the story where I was in the middle of the row. I was going from Dubai to Pakistan, and next to me, I think I was around 13, maybe 14 years old, potentially a little bit smaller than that, or younger, sorry. And next to me on my left was this elderly man, and on my right were two boys, similar age as me. So we were sat in the middle, and obviously I had this thing of trying to get out of my shell a little bit more and speak to more people, which I tried doing, and I still remember their names today. There's probably thousands of them with this name, so I'm just going to say it. So Adib and Thayab were the names. And at the time, Adib and Thayab, I spoke to them. I was like, hey, my name is Shmail. I'm from the UK. I'm a child. I love playing games. Do you like playing games? I remember they had this massive, thick book of Harry Potter. I've never read Harry Potter in my life. So, yeah, me being British born, typically every British child has read Harry Potter, but never touched it. We've seen the movies, but not even all of them. Not so keen on Harry Potter, but I can imagine it's an amazing book. But we started talking about, Harry Potter. I was just recounting what I remember from the movies. And as the time progressed, we started laughing. And I remember something quite peculiar. And this is the first time I came across this. On every Emirates flight, there's in-flight entertainment, ICE, if you know. I forgot what it stands for. Information, Communication and Entertainment, I believe. And part of the communication element of it, on the back of the TV remote, which was, you press this button, the remote comes out of the back of the seat, and you've got this like wire attached to it. And you turn over the remote, and you can see a telephone. Well, what I assume was a telephone. There was like numbers on it, and then there was a screen. And I was like, so can I call people? And consider this was like back in 2013, 11, 10, somewhere around that period of time. So, of course, back then to have mobile phones, probably not as popular. Obviously, there was a Nokia and, N8 phones and, so on and so forth. So wasn't as, phones weren't as popular back then. But what you would find is that I'm just like, you can call people, and I was started investigating a little bit more. I started tapping around, and then I realized you can call other people on the plane. And I was like, that is so cool. But then I was like, I haven't got any friends to call, and plus the friends I have made, they're sat right next to me, so it's a little bit pointless. And then what I did was, he went all the way down the aisle and sat with his mum, who was sat on another seat, and we started calling one another. I was like, this is so cool, like, I can totally hear you, you sound really cool, and, I can't remember the seat number, it was something like 34B, or something along those lines. Because seat numbers, they also work like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. They're all letters and then numbers as well. So we were like, he came back, and Atib and Thayab and me, we were like, should we do a bit of, prank calling? Obviously, we're children at the time, so it's allowed. And what happened was we decided to call some people. Some people picked up, some people didn't. And what the best bit was, because we're sat in the middle, somewhat at the back, we could see everyone's screens, and we would look at people and calculate their seat number. We would be like, okay, this person's on 32F, let's call him. So we'd call him, and then we can see on the screen, it will say, seat number 32C is calling you. And that, for us, would be so funny. It would be like hilarious. They're watching, Madagascar or whatever, and suddenly this seat number just starts calling them. And for them, they've probably never seen it in their lives, so they're probably a bit startled as well. But as time progressed, we kept doing it, and we realized, who should we do next? We took it up a level and decided to call the seat row in front of us. Now, consider this, I did not know who was sat in the seat, row in front of us, so didn't know if any of them were related, didn't know anything about that row. And came to a point, we called the man who was sat in front of us, and he was just like tapping away angrily, and we was like, oh, okay. And then we called the woman sat next to the man. I wish I knew what the relationship was at the time, but we called them, not me, Deeb did, and he called them, and the man looked back and realized it was us, because obviously he could see the seat number. And he goes back, stands up and says, in Urdu, like, what are you doing? Why are you messing around with my wife? And I was like, for us, well, for me, being told off was a bit of, a rare thing. So being told off by a stranger was a little bit more startling. So I was like, it's not me, it's Thayeb. Thayeb goes, it's not me, it's Adib. Adib goes, it's not me. Now consider this, we had an elderly man sat right next to us. And what Adib does is he points to the elderly man, who is also asleep. He's got a grey beard. He doesn't have time for that. He's probably done all of that and probably pondering on life, but he points to him, and that man just either wakes up from his sleep or something. He just wakes up and he points and says to the man who was complaining that it's all three of them. And I think after that, I never bothered calling anyone again on the flight. But for me, that was a memorable experience. At the end of the flight, me, Athib and Thayeb, we both shared email addresses, emailed them. They've never gotten back to me since, which is sad because it was such a good time. But they've probably now got beards like me and, moved on in their life, all that sort of stuff. But it was a very fun experience. And that I also got with Emirates. So it was things like that I really enjoyed in the early days. And I think the flight, the experience you have with Emirates doesn't stop or start from the plane journey. Definitely not. The Emirates journey can actually start from your own home. Because in today's day and age, if you were to go to Dubai, you can, ask Emirates to pick up your luggage for you. You can ask Emirates to book a, chauffeur for you. You can even sit in the Emirates lounge. And then from the Emirates lounge, you can go all the way to the plane. And then obviously from the plane back into the Emirates lounge, get, a chauffeur, go to a hotel, get, complimentary services from Emirates. And so you realize that the journey with Emirates is not just on the plane. For example, if you were to book a flight with Ryanair, never done. I hope I never will. But if you were to book a flight with them, they probably don't provide that experience for obvious reasons. Obviously, there's a price difference, and obviously it's more of a budget airline, so it's kind of wrong comparing the two. I won't ever put them into comparison, but what you can imagine is that the experience with Emirates is a lot more longer lasting, it's a lot more memorable as well, because of the fact that it's not just about the flight in-flight experiences before and after, and it's almost like a sandwich, and the best experience is probably in flight as well. And obviously they've now got economy premium, they've got economy, they've got business class, and they've got first class, all amazing classes. Like I've been on Etihad, or people say Etihad Airlines, I've been on PIA, I've been on, I think that's about it. Those are the main airlines, and then Emirates. And then Saudi Airlines as well. And I can say absolutely for sure the best economy class there is Emirates. Emirates has the best, like the leg room. Like for me, leg room is so important. If I can't stretch out my legs, I'll be crying the entire journey. Like I would be sat at an angle, ensuring that somehow I can stretch out my legs underneath someone else's seats, and ensuring that my toes just don't suddenly perk out and jump out of nowhere. So that was, for sure, I can say that Emirates economy class is probably the best economy class that you will ever come across. Now, I think I've already talked about what Emirates did to me and how did it make me feel. And I can say for sure, it's never let me down. It's even, let's talk about, how did it make me feel afterwards, and what's the process like getting off the plane, because I think that's quite important as well. So when you get off the plane, one thing I can say for sure is that the process and the smiles that, the air hostess and air host give you when you're coming off the plane is really nice. And only recently as well, because I'm getting older, I'm somewhat a little bit more social. Speaking to, like when it comes to, nighttime and everyone's sleeping. I've now drifted away from that phase of watching movies because of how accessible, Netflix is, YouTube is. And I'm just like, do I really want to do this on a plane? Because previously, watching movies on a plane was such a privilege, because I used to say to my brother, I'm going to be watching XYZ movie on the plane when it comes out, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to binge watch, all the Harry Potter series and all that sort of stuff. But this time around, when I was on the plane, I was like, nah, I don't feel like doing that. So I started playing chess, and then started playing, other games and so on and so forth. And I'm like, it's not doing it for me. Then I listened to a podcast, and I believe The Economist is probably one of my favorite podcasts to listen to on Emirates. Like, it just hits very differently, their voice and, the sun hitting you and all that sort of stuff. So I decided to get up from my seat, and because I'm so interested in the lifestyle of an Emirates, air host or air hostess, I went up to them and I was like, if they were just like socializing with one another, and that kitchen area. So towards the end of the seats, there's this like little compartment where they keep all the food and all the trays and stuff. I went up to them, and I believe her name was Stephanie or something like that, and I believe it was Stephanie. I asked Stephanie, how'd you find it? Like, I don't even know what I asked, but it took me a lot of courage to ask, and a lot of build up, and, trying to ask, what's life like? How do you find, being an air hostess and all that sort of stuff? And I'm glad I asked, because she introduced me to the entire other, cabin crew. We took a picture together towards the end of the flight. And what else did we do? We talked about, how in part of the cabin crew, majority of people are graduates. Some people are ex-police officers, ex-doctors, ex-teachers. She herself was a teacher. And it was just quite inspiring to see that. I thought that these individuals would go straight into becoming, part of the cabin crew for Emirates, but that's not necessarily the case. There are so many experienced people, even ex-pilots as well. And this got me thinking, like, I'd love to take out 3 years just to be a part of this crew, because 1, you get to travel, 2, you get to experience people, 3, yes, there will be dark sides to every job, but the main thing is that you get to travel, you get to be a part of an airline that has actually given a lot to you, and it would only be, something I'd look forward to being a part of. So after speaking, it just opened my eyes that, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes as well. And at that very moment, shockingly, there was an emergency. Obviously, everyone was asleep, but there was an emergency. Alarms were going off and everything, and they were going back and forth. And the way they were, walking around and making sure that everything's all right, it was just amazing. It was so organized, and it only further reassured me as a passenger that Emirates is a really good airline, and you're getting your money's worth. That's one thing for sure. So when it comes to, previous experiences with Emirates, absolutely amazing. And there's another point at which, when I was coming from Dubai to the UK again, obviously going from Dubai to UK, like I said, you're probably not in your best of state, but it's Emirates, so they'll make it the best experience possible for you. And they provided me with hot chocolate and tea, and I absolutely loved their hot chocolate, to the point I went and asked them later on. I was like, can you make me another hot chocolate? Obviously, whilst it's their job to obviously cater for you and or take care of you in terms of making sure that you have a good experience, but even for them to say yes was something nice of them and something very kind. And obviously it just made me happy that I could have another wonderful hot chocolate. And funnily enough, I asked, what hot chocolate is it? And it turned out to be Milo. But that Milo hot chocolate on that plane, I've never been able to replicate again. I even bought Milo after that journey, and I was like, I need Milo, but never the same again, because I don't know what it was. So that's that with regards to, the whole Emirates experience and how much I actually enjoy it. Like, there's so many different stories now cropping up in my head that I've just opened up a whole door. I'll tell you one more thing, and it's this kind of more of a dark side of planes, but it's not Emirates. It's more so to do with plane food. For me, I'm not someone who loves plain food, probably because I like, fresh food that is, made with love and all that sort of stuff. But one thing I'd say for sure, Emirates food is better than the rest. That is a given. And I remember when I was traveling, when the A380 was first released, the Airbus A380, I traveled from Heathrow to Dubai, and may I just say that salmon steak that I had, absolutely amazing. It was probably the best salmon I've ever had with regards to, the way it was made, and especially outside. So, and I believe I even collected that menu and took it home with me. I've got it here somewhere. And since that point onwards, like, it was amazing. And that was the first time I actually had plain food without an actual issue of feeling sick or trying to throw up. However, on the flip side, that's economy. If we go into first, it's made there and there in front of you. You've got your own chef on board, and the whole experience is absolutely wild. And I hope that one day I'm able to actually experience that. Now, talking about connecting with people and coming off the plane, I love that experience as well, where the air hostess and the air host are, saying goodbye to you, and you're walking off, and then you go into Dubai International Airport, and obviously this is the home of Emirates, and going to the concourse, seeing people going back and forth. And I think the best thing is, one, the mandatory toilet break that you need coming off the plane. The toilets, super clean. The cleaners there do their job really well, and hats off to them, because going back and forth into the toilet, staying there, cleaning, ensuring that the passengers enjoy their time there. And it's so important when traveling to be in a clean environment at all times. And I also hope that one day I'm able to have a shower 33,000 feet in the sky, because I realized when you come off a plane, you end up feeling a little bit groggy and all that sort of stuff. But I'd say there are also shower facilities at Dubai International Airport, and there's a whole variety of different things. And obviously the duty-free shopping, and the different restaurants there are, and the different takeaways. And for me, whilst all those shopping things are amazing, one thing I love shopping for is the actual just typical souvenir stuff. So I'm talking Emirates playing cards. I've got one here. I'm trying to get another one, which is specifically, it's got the air hostess, air host, the captain on the back of the playing cards, as King of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, which is pretty much amazing. But with regards to buying stuff there, like Tic Tac, the different flavored bubblegum, like, those are the things that make me so excited. There was like things like Batuk bubblegum, Toblerone as well. There's like the little mini ones, dark chocolate Toblerone, which I absolutely love. And another thing that I love about Dubai Airport is, there's reclined fixed chairs that you have in each waiting area. I forgot what the thing is called now. That place where you wait, gate. At each gate you've got those chairs which are reclined, and seeing everyone with their travel pillow, and children sleeping, adults sleeping as well, and families and stuff, and everyone's just sleeping. And what is so nice is when you're waiting as well, you're watching other people are watching you, but once you're watching people, you get to see how everyone's behaving and interacting with one another, which I think is absolutely, it's such a refreshing feeling that you can see. You don't know where they're from, where they're going next, but you just know at this very moment in time they're either with their family, they're with their friends, they're resting, they're somewhat happy, they're chilling, even though they might be tired. But for me, it's nice to see that interaction, and it gets even better to see their reactions when they leave the airport, because everyone's just, dispersing off into wherever, and it's such a wonderful experience. And for me, even better is watching Dubai when it's early in the morning, so it's still pitch black, and slowly the sun comes out. And when the sun comes out, may I just tell you, it's probably the best feeling ever. And not only that is when you're in the air jetty. So when you come off the plane, you go through that tube. So that's the air jetty. And when you come off, you get an instant heat wave. And honestly, it's the one thing I absolutely crave. And obviously for every other single British person out here, we all crave a bit of sun, and it makes us happy. But it's the one thing that truly makes me happy, just going through that air jet. I'd probably run up and down constantly. And it's definitely something that, really makes me happy. And in terms of like future, and I can be talking about Emirates forever and ever and ever. I've got these different stories that are cropping up, but the point to make is that this passion that I have for Emirates is a very emotional passion that, whilst I'm trying to still build up my theoretical knowledge of Emirates, the experience and the emotions that you get with Emirates is completely unique, and I can't compare it to any other, experience I've had. And obviously grateful for my family for being able to, take me on Emirates and, get and gain that experience. And I think it's probably one of the best things as a part of my life, the travel. And so when it comes to, towards the end of the flight, and you're in the airport and you're about to take the next flight, and that waiting area, even that is amazing. Like, you're packing your stuff, you've got your duty-free bags, you're ruffling away, you're just sat on your phone and you're just taking pictures, you're uploading on social media, and so on and so forth. That entire experience you can't really get anywhere else. You couldn't get in a shopping mall. Not only that, the architecture as well, absolutely amazing. Like, I remember there was a point where we went to Dubai airport, but we went at a point in which one of the terminals was completely empty. Completely. To the point it was almost like a playground for me. And probably still is a playground for me if I go again and if it's completely empty. But the point to make is that this experience with Emirates is completely unique, and I would encourage anyone who's considering to fly, especially their first time, and if they can, fly with Emirates. You will definitely not regret it. And if anything, you'd probably want to fly again. And I'm hoping in the future I become a brand ambassador for Emirates, because that's something that I would absolutely love to do. And with that being said, I would like to finish off with the idea and the fact that I potentially may want to become a pilot in the future. I might or may not become a pilot for Emirates, but I at least want to be able to be a part of a team for Emirates, whether that's be a doctor for Emirates, an onboard doctor, or even working at Dubai International Airport. That experience of being at an airport, seeing different cultures interact with one another, seeing people exchange smiles, all that sort of stuff. It's literally my happy place, and that's miles away. But obviously, whilst home is also a happy place, if there was another happy place, it would be Dubai Airport or anywhere where I'm going on with Emirates. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. I know it's a very chatty podcast, but hopefully you've enjoyed the little stories here and there, and hopefully I've somewhat convinced you to also fly Emirates. And fly better is what they say. Fly tomorrow, fly better. I forgot that quote. I should know that. If I'm really passionate about it, I should know that. But that's probably because I feel like they changed their motto recently. Anyways, the point to make is fly Emirates.